Hi everybody, and welcome to another Brain Attack Music video with me, Andy. The subject of this video is about becoming an expert in our own situation. Now, what I mean by that is I'm sure many of you out there, brain injury survivors, stroke survivors, will have experienced information that you've been given by medical professionals that has turned out over time to be flawed. I'm not going to say wrong, I'm not going to say incorrect, just flawed and possibly ill advised. Now, one of the standard things that I see on social media and I hear from people that I talk to is medical professionals who say things like, oh, once you're 2 years post the event, you won't get any better. Sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's 18 months, but there's a period of time where the medical professional says once you reach this point, whatever that point is, a year, 18 months, 2 years down, whatever, it's normally between the kind of year and 2 years, but once you reach that point, you won't get any better. That's as good as you're going to be. And as we say in the UK, for any of you watching in from outside of the UK, you may not be familiar with this expression, but as we say in the UK, that's a load of bollocks. Because we know there's plenty of evidence out there that shows that people continue to make progress, continue to make improvements way beyond the 2 year period. Now, they have to put the work in, they have to keep working at it, but you can still make progress beyond the 2 years. The 2 year barrier, if we call it that, is a myth, a complete myth. Which is why I said at the top of the video, we need to become experts. I needed to become an expert in my situation, cerebellar stroke, hydrocephalus, brain surgery. What's that all about? That's a bit. Cerebellar strokes, I now know, are quite rare. They account for about 2% of all the strokes that happen. And I developed hydrocephalus. That's water on the brain, because my brain, the stroke caused my brain to swell. That blocked the cerebrospinal fluid from draining out of my skull, and so it had nowhere to go, but my body was still producing it, and it was slowly crushing my brain. That's hydrocephalus, and that's why I needed 6 hours of emergency brain surgery to drill holes in my skull and take a bit of skull out the back in order to relieve the pressure and let the fluid out, and then that reduced the swelling on my brain, and then the fluid could naturally come out the way that it came out, and all went back to kind of normal. But nobody really told me that. I, with my wife's help, had to find that out for myself. So I understood my situation, I understood my circumstances. And it's the same thing with meds. I see a lot of stuff on social media where people talk about, for example, clopidogrel, cloppy as I call it. I'm not too sure how it's pronounced. Clopidogrel, I don't know, cloppy. It's called Plavix in the States. And I see a lot of folks say, oh, are you on a blood thinner like Plavix, clopidogrel? And it's not actually a blood thinner. It's an antiplatelet med. So it's preventing the platelets, which coagulate the blood, from sticking together. It's not actually thinning the blood per se, as warfarin would do. It's actually preventing the blood from sticking together quite so much. So it's kind of doing a similar thing to a blood thinner, but it isn't actually a blood thinner. And I find it astonishing that people can be on a medication and not actually know what it is or what it does. So my plea to you is to become an expert in your situation. Your brain injury, your stroke will be fairly unique to you. Become an expert in the medication that you're on, why you're on that medication, research it, We live in a fantastic day and age where it's all at our fingertips on the internet. Now, you're going to come across some bad information, so stick to trusted sources, maybe the NHS here in the UK, maybe some of the bigger research universities in the US, whichever part of the world you're in, World Health Organization, whatever, stick to. Don't just pick something off that somebody whom you don't know, a complete stranger on Facebook, has said, oh, X, Y, and Z, and you go, oh, good, X, Y, and Z, fantastic, that's good. Please don't do that. Do your own research, go to multiple sources, piece all the bits of the jigsaw together, and understand as best you're able your circumstances, your situation, your medication, your therapy, whether that be physical therapy, your mental therapy, if you happen to be having any. Really take the time, put the work in, and understand your circumstances, because your health is your responsibility. Your health depends on it. What are you eating? Are you eating a lot of processed foods? What's the sugar content like? What's the salt content like? People think, for example, silly example, oh, if I drink lots of fruit juice, that's good for me. Fruit juice has got an awful lot of sugar in it. So slugging back gallons of orange juice, as an example, is actually not good. That's got a lot of sugar in it. I'm not saying orange juice is bad for you. It isn't, but like my mum and her generation would have said, all things in moderation. And there's a lot of truth in that. But you need to research all this stuff, find it all out, and work out what's best for you. So, just to recap, my plea is for you, whoever is watching this now, become an expert in your circumstances, become an expert in your medication, what you're on, why you're on it, and importantly, how can I get off it? So, as an example, I am now on a bare minimum of blood pressure meds, for the simple reason that in the last year and a quarter, I've lost about 4.5 stone, about 30 kilos, which has made a huge difference to my blood pressure. So I'm able to, with my doctor's advice, able to reduce very drastically my blood pressure medication. I'm now no longer on statins. Now, the clopidogrel that I mentioned earlier, that is something I will need to be on for life, because that is preventing my sticky blood from sticking together too much. It's something I always used to pride myself on. Oh, look, I'm cut. I'll give it, count to 10 and it'll be coagulated. Yeah, it's not actually a good thing. I used to wear it as a bit of a badge of honour when I was a kid, particularly, but it's not actually a good thing. So clopidogrel I'm going to be on, as I see it, for the rest of my days. If I can get a bit fitter, if I can maybe lose a bit more weight, maybe the final blood pressure med that I'm on, maybe I can come off that. So that means the only med that I'll be on will be the clopidogrel, Plavix as it is called in the States. And I can't see me coming off that. I'm going to be off that, on that I should say, for the rest of my days. But I feel very good that I'm now coming up for 8 years post-stroke, and the bucket load of meds that I left hospital with 8 years ago, I've gradually over time understood what they are and worked with my doctor, different doctors, different GPs, over time to actually, in a healthy way, reduce that medication. So I'm not a big fan of medication. When it's necessary, fine, but otherwise not a big fan. So just to round off, thank you for your patience for watching. Please listen to what I've said and just become an expert in your situation. Understand your situation and understand, therefore, where you can move forwards and how. Anyhow, I'm going to go for a cup of coffee. Thanks for watching. Look after yourselves. See you soon. Bye for now.